Hi guys, welcome back to Author Journey. My name is CJ Anaya. Today we are into part 4 of how to develop character arcs. Make sure that you return to parts 1, 2, and 3 so that this will all make sense to you since we're just building upon this right now. And be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're new to the family. Make sure you hit the little bell next to it so that you'll be notified when I have parts 5 and 6 and however many parts we need to thoroughly get through this so that we understand how to develop character arcs. Okay, so we're going to talk now about the main character arc moment or the main character moment. Now that you've figured out the lie, the want, the need, and the ghost, you're ready to weave this character arc into the plot of the novel. You're ready to write this aspect of it. And you need to do it in a way that hits specific plot points or beats within the structure of your novel. So when I talk to you guys about outlining a novel, I'm talking about plot, and that's the thing that I really focused on when I did that tutorial of outlining a novel. There's a specific plot and formula that you follow for structuring story arcs. Character arcs are different, and so you're weaving story structure and character structure with it all, which is why you need to learn things just kind of line upon line, not have it all thrown at you at once. Otherwise, weaving these plots and these stories and these arcs together, it can be very overwhelming, and I don't want you to feel that way. I want you to understand each aspect of writing a good story so that it will make sense to you before you sit down and look at the page. And some people are pantsers, and that's okay. Some people need a little more freedom. They don't necessarily need these checklists. But for those who need more structure, this will help you, okay? So in previous tutorials, I talked about hero action, and not necessarily in any of the character arc tutorials, but I did talk about hero action in the outlining novels. And this is a really important plot point at the beginning of the book. You need to introduce your character in a way that hooks your reader in, okay? So this can also be considered the hook or what pulls the reader in from page 1 and refuses to let them go. The hook needs to show up at the same time your main character does. So do not open up your book with your character thinking about the weather, grooming a dog, unless she's a groomer who's about to get robbed while she's grooming the dog, or just sitting at a table at home eating a muffin, shooting the breeze. You need to introduce your main character in a moment of conflict that is going to dramatize or showcase strengths and weaknesses, okay? So you need to create a moment or event that allows you to introduce the protagonist, and most likely their name, age, gender, nationality, possible physical characteristics, highlight the most important part of his or her personality, get a reader's interest, sympathy, and make the character appealing in some way. And give us what the scene's goal is, and then introduce the entire story goal if that fits in there at that moment. These aren't hard, fast rules. Sometimes you can't fit all of this in the beginning, okay? And you'll find that people are always going to write stories that sometimes just push the rules of writing aside. It happens when you structure things a certain way and you do things a certain way. Sometimes those rules just don't apply. But for the most part, you want to follow this, okay? And if you can leave things out and they can go in another place, that's fine. But for sure, hint at the lie here. You need to establish the lie right away. Use this event or scene goal to somehow foreshadow future events and influence the plot. So it's a lot to do, and you need to find a way to do it where it doesn't read like you've checked things off your list as you were writing, even though you probably were. So one way to consider this is by indicating the lack of fulfillment in this character's life caused by the lie. Okay, just hint at it a little bit, and that's going to be part of this main character moment, okay? We need to see that lack of fulfillment illustrated in some way during this initial introduction. You also want to showcase specific strengths by putting your main character in a situation that really dramatizes those strengths. So readers need to identify with your character before the weaknesses are shown, before the cracks and flaws really come through. It's easier for us to identify with a person's strengths first, and then as they're likable and we latch on to them, it's easier for us to see that, oh, those weaknesses okay, we'll work with them. Clearly this is going to be something that they need to overcome. We're not flat out going to just really like someone who's a coward if that's all they show right away. Whiny coward. This is not going to endear your readers to your character. Okay? So think of one main virtue or heroic trait you can assign to your character, and then create a memorable scene where you can showcase this trait while hinting at the lie a bit. So the lie needs to be established early on. This memorable scene needs to involve conflict, which can foreshadow the main conflict of the book while showcasing key traits of the character's personality. The conflict, though, may not have anything to do with the main conflict of the book. Like, it may not have anything to do with the plot per se. It could be just a very stupid conflict, but one that is intense. And what is really the point of that conflict is the way the character responds to it. The way that it showcases the character's strengths, and then possibly hints at the character's weaknesses, okay, by hinting at the lie. So sometimes it doesn't even need to have anything to do with the main conflict or goal of the book. Sometimes it's just a medium by which you introduce these specific traits and this lie that is kind of this character's downfall. Whatever you can do, it needs to be something that's going to hook your reader in and really grab their attention. So just as an example, again, using the Geeky Billionaire romance that I'm halfway through and hopefully will someday finish writing. So the first chapter of my Geeky Billionaire romance is from Audrey's perspective. And her moment involves trying to figure out how she'll fund her nonprofit and then coming to her best friend's aid when she discovers her best friend has had her heart ripped out by a total player. So she's already dealing with one conflict, which also runs through the book, okay? And we open that up to her not having enough money. This is an issue, and she's frantic about it. So it draws us in, but then right away we've got the best friend coming in, and there are problems, and she's immediately dropping everything to try and help her best friend. So we reveal the strengths here, which is fierce loyalty to her friends, and the way she thinks of others before herself by opening up this nonprofit. So I hint at the lie she believes in as well, which is love destroys. I thrust her into an immediate conflict that lets us know what the end game for the book is. We see she lacks love and fulfillment due to the lie. We see that she is feisty and sticks up for her friends. And we know her age, her race, and her profession. And those are all things that you slowly weave in through thoughts, inner dialogue, external dialogue, action. Those are all things that you can do in that way. Try to be subtle about it. And then I also hint at the ghost fueling the lie by revealing a tiny bit about her failed marriage, not a ton. You do not want to take a huge info dump right at the beginning of your book because your readers will yawn and sigh and then throw it away. Nothing is happening if you're really revealing backstory. All that's happening is that you're just, you're revealing a bit, you're summing up history, and nobody wants to read a huge thing of history. We need the story to flow, and we need things to get going. We need it to take off. So I also reveal what she wants most, and it's to make this love coach pay for hurting her friend. It's what she thinks is going to make everything better. So I do all of this within the first scene, and then I switch over to Asher's perspective in the next chapter. And since this is a romance, we basically have two main characters. Romances, you pretty much have two main characters to deal with. So I repeat the process with him as well. I hint at his lie. I hint at his immediate conflict, which is this guy telling him that he wants him to attend this wedding, and Asher needs to bring his wife. And Asher has lied all this time about actually having a wife. And if he doesn't prove that he does have a wife, then his credibility as a love coach is going to be shot. So he has to show up with a wife. Otherwise, that's going to be a huge problem. So I reveal all these things in the way that Asher reacts to this man, and then internally how he's feeling about it, okay? So we see strengths in the way that he reacts to the man, and then that insecurity and a little bit of weakness as we reveal the lie, okay? So all of these things need to be thrown in there, and I'm able to show their personalities, I'm able to show their occupations, I'm able to hint at how old they are. It's a lot of info, and it's why beginnings are hard. It's why beginnings are hard, because you're trying to pull people in and add all of these elements. There's so much that you have to do when it comes to setup. But if you know what elements need to be placed in there, then you can write it and it can be super rough. And then you can start looking at it and figuring out where you need to move things around and put the pieces together in an order where it flows a little bit more smoothly. And if you can't do that by yourself, just get a developmental editor to do it for you. You'll need one anyway as soon as you finish, at the very least a copy editor. So that's just one way to look at this. Now, here's some questions you can ask yourself to really help you nail down the beginning, make sure that you have everything in there in the beginning, and then, figure out where to move things so that it flows the best. But just what heroic quality, personality trait, or skill best describes your protagonist? And then what memorable scene can you create to illustrate this to the extreme? Now, sometimes things are more subtle. It's fine. There's no hard or fast rule on that. It needs to be extreme in the sense that it's emotional, that it pulls your readers in, that it's compelling, okay? I'm not talking about scenes where you're describing people blowing up and people are getting shot at. That's one heck of a way to open it up. It doesn't have to be that extreme. You just need to show memorable scenes that are going to illustrate these strengths, okay, and this personality trait that pretty much dominates who this person is and best illustrates who this person is. How can you use this memorable scene to also introduce the plot? Okay, so remember, the more conflict and drama, the more you're going to hook your reader. And how can you hint at your protagonist's lie? Is there a place to hint at or reveal the ghost? Now remember, you don't necessarily have to do that. We talked about the ghost, and sometimes you don't even reveal it in some books at all. So, if it fits there, great. If it doesn't, no worries. How can you use this scene to reveal what your character wants most? That is imperative. That's got to be in there. Does the scene goal and the overall goal meet with an obstacle? Is there conflict there? How can you share important physical details about your character in a subtle way without basically coming out and saying, I have green eyes, I have blonde hair, I am 5'2"? Obviously showing, not telling, that type of thing. And you don't need to get all of the physical details in there, just a few here and there. Introduce more if they become necessary. But readers need to get an idea of what you have. And some readers are more picky than others. Some readers want you to spell it out for them. They want details, details, details. Otherwise, they can't picture it. And other readers have told me that they don't need much. They just need a little bit, and then they like to create it on their own. There is no right or wrong answer in this respect because it's always so subjective, and every reader is different. So if you can just hit a nice middle ground or just do whatever works best for you, it's fine, okay? Now, I want to take just a story and kind of illustrate how these questions can be applied to things. You can watch movies and ask yourself these questions and see how these movies actually align with these questions, if they're using or utilizing these things. And one movie that I think just has such a killer opening, and I'm gonna show that to you right now, is it's The Croods, okay? I love this movie so much. It is just so funny to me, and I love the theme and I love the message. And basically, when we start out, we get a little narrative here about how all of these families were dying, and they're kind of the last family around who's still alive. So clearly their living arrangement is very difficult. It's not safe, okay? It's just not safe. So what we're looking at here, and I want to just pop this up again. If you've seen this movie, then you're going to be able to follow along. If you haven't, then at the very least, just Google it, watch on YouTube the beginning, okay? Probably the first 10, 15 minutes. And I'm talking about the dad here, okay? What heroic quality or personality trait best describes him is he's very, very protective of his family. He's strong and protective. And the memorable scene that they have is that they're all coming out of this cave that they've been hiding in for 3 days. So he tries to keep them in there and keep them safe for as long as possible. And we hint at that because his daughter's like, oh my gosh, we've been in there for 3 days. This is awful, especially with his family. And he doesn't want anybody to come out until he's given the signal, and they're already coming out. He's so frustrated because it's not orderly. It's not how he needs it to be. He can't protect them if they won't listen to his orders. And so he... One thing that he does, or a way that they introduce the lie here really well, is that just before they go off together to hunt, he says, we're going to do this as a family, and remember to never not be afraid. So he's counseling them to be afraid. That one line right there sums up the lie perfectly. He wants them to be afraid. He doesn't want them to try new things. He believes that new things kills you. And he'll tell stories to try and convince them of that. She tried something new and she died. And these are just the funniest things ever. So that's the lie, and it's revealed right away. And then you see this very fun, it's like the first caveman football game ever, where they get the egg and they're trying to get it while being chased and hunted by other creatures. It's clearly very, dangerous. And his whole goal, you can tell, the scene goal is to get the food and to survive. Okay, that's the goal of the scene. Get the food, make it back to this cave, survive. The overall goal is the same in the sense that he's trying to keep his family alive. But he's dealing with this lie where, the question is, can it truly be called living if you're living in a cave? And you're stuck in a cave and you're never trying new things and you're never experiencing anything new. He doesn't want anyone to hurt or die or be in pain, but at the same time, nobody is really living. So all of this is showcased in the very beginning of this. And so I want everybody to watch the beginning of this if you haven't seen it. It's just really, really cool. And then go through these questions and ask yourself how this movie does this. And there are a few things left out. But for the most part, that's the setup, and it's really well done. And it's that huge main character moment where we're seeing this dad and how he handles things, and we're getting a sense of what this conflict really is, and especially internally. So there's so many internal issues and external issues, and it's just I think that's why I love this story so much. It was so well written and so well thought out. So I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And that's a great way for you to do your homework. You can read books, the beginning of the books, read the first 15 pages of a book and ask yourself these questions. Are they doing this? Any bestsellers you can grab. Stephen King is great. J.K. Rowling is great. I'm trying to think of Dean Koontz. I mean, I know you guys know that these are my favorite authors. Just anyone is just a really fabulous, wonderful author. Grab their books. Read the first chapters, figure out what it is they're doing, and take these questions and apply them. Just check them off your list and see how they're doing it. And it will give you some really great, wonderful ideas as to how you can open up your book with some great hero action, great main character moment that is going to illustrate all of this so well and help you, weave in that character arc with the lie and, likable traits and the ghost. Not necessarily what they need just yet. That's going to come a little bit later. But those things really do need to be weaved into the book right from the beginning. And this is how you do it. So if you liked this video, please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm super happy to answer any questions for you if you have any. This one went a little longer. I apologize for that. But I just want to make sure that you're able to learn and understand, and that I'm giving you all of the tools you need to create fabulous character arcs and to weave them into your story arcs. And we will talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.